In this lesson, we're going to go over how we can do some exporting of our project. So we've already seen import, as we've done that a couple different times already for this project. But when we go to our File menu, we'll note that there's also an export option. Now there are many different reasons that we may want to export our project. We may want to have a runnable jar file that we can basically deploy to other devices or other machines that can easily be double-clicked to run the project. We're going to do that for this export so that we can see that in action. If we're building a library class, we may just want to export as a jar file to be included as a third-party addition to another project. We also may be building a general project that we want to simply archive and send to someone else to extract and put into their own editor. Or perhaps we just want to export the files to a file system location just to have a backup copy or to open again in another editor. So again, here we're going to do a runnable jar file. So we'll select Next after selecting that. And we want to use the program that's going to execute. So ours is named Program, and it's an Infinite Skills Password Manager. So that will launch when we double-click the executable jar. We need to name the jar something useful. So here I've called it ispm.jar, and I'm going to save it directly on the desktop. The next part, you can determine if there are third-party libraries that are included with your code, how you want to do that. You can extract them directly into your generated jar. You could package those libraries into your generated jar, or you could copy those libraries into a subfolder next to the generated jar. And so there are different things that you can do. Here we're just going to extract the required libraries directly into the generated jar, and we'll select Finish. Now when we do that, it says it's repacking a reference library, so you need to make sure that you have the rights to do that. And so we're going to go ahead and say, OK. We're just using this on our own desktop anyway. And it says the jar export finished with warnings, see additional details. So here you can see there are compile warnings in my different files. And if you look, you can see that these files do have little yellow exclamation points on them, which is telling me that there's a warning in it. Warnings are okay, errors are bad. And if you look at the warnings, I mean, these are things like we don't have a serializable UID and pairs are raw type, need to reference it directly. So you can see that there are a few warnings that we left, but that's okay. When we exported it, we ended up with ispm.jar. And now, when I double-click this, I can run my program without having to be inside of Eclipse anymore. And I can take that jar file and move it to another machine and be able to use my Infinite Skills Password Manager program on any machine. One caveat to that is, at this time we still have everything hard-coded for the file locations, so we need to make sure that we have something useful here. So if we're going to export this to an executable jar file in this state, we need to make sure that the machine is set up with a common directory that we can easily reference no matter what machine we go to, so the program will be able to run successfully. But that wraps up our quick look at exporting files from our project.